All right. We are live for the inaugural first ever Engineering Evolved podcast. My name is Brandon E. Grant.
And on this side, Pavel Krupa. Welcome, everyone.
There is no fancy intro and outro. This is episode 1. We are currently 2 engineers who have realized that we want to change the conversation around what engineering and engineering culture could be and should be in the future. So jumping into it, we'll start with a little bit of an introduction. My name is Brandon E. Grant. I am a 15-year industry veteran in the space of industrial automation robotics. I worked for a company called CBW Automation. They were a OEM automation supplier for the plastics industry. And so I was a traveling robot mechanic was my 3-word job title that I put on myself. And so I worked for them for about 5 years. And then I went and worked for one of their customers called Berry Global or Berry Plastics at the time. And I went in as an engineer, and that's where I started to wear a bow tie every day. And I went in as an engineer who worked on the equipment that they bought from CBW. And so really started to lean in there. In 2014, I got married and they moved us to Kansas, where I was responsible for helping turn over their business model from a mostly buckets and butter tubs to a IML or injection mold labeling system. I got fired from there in 2018. That's a story I'm sure we'll talk about here at some point. And then I went to Tesla. After I got fired, I got to land at Tesla, and I got to put in 4 years there. While I was at Berry, I stepped into people leadership, and I maintained that throughout my career at Tesla as an engineer who was a maintenance supervisor. Left Tesla in December, came home and been working at a carbon fiber recycler, and then just recently launched my coaching business. So for me, engineering evolved. This first step in the direction, my first step into this space happened in 2014. I was in Kansas. It was summertime. My wife had taken, my pregnant wife had taken our son to Colorado for a vacation, and I was just kind of at the house. And if everybody remembers the Ice Bucket Challenge, I got like 3 invites to the Ice Bucket Challenge on the same day. And so I'm there doing the Ice Bucket Challenge, and I don't know anybody. Like, I don't know anybody in the town. There's nobody to dump it on me. And so me being the engineer that I am, I built this Rube Goldberg type situation where I went up and I dumped a bucket, and I dropped a thing in and with a broomstick, and it dropped a brick in and knocked a brick over and poured water over the top of me. And I recorded it with my phone. And I remember being really excited because I went down and I was like, oh, I'm going to check this out. I'm super cool. Look at how ingenuitive I am. And I picked it up and I looked at it, and it completely shattered my frame of who I thought I was. Because when I looked at the phone, I didn't see like ingenuitive, engineer on point. I saw that I was fat, cold, wet, and alone. It completely shattered the frame of who I was. And it made me realize that here you go. For anyone who hasn't seen that, that's this. No, this one. That's this version of that dude. It made me realize that even though I had done everything that I thought I was supposed to have done, right? I had an engineering job. I was working for a corporation and working and climbing up the ladder. They had just moved me to go help a plant out. I was married. I bought a house. My wife was pregnant. We had my stepson. Like, everything was going the right way. I checked every single box. Something still wasn't right. My life wasn't working, and I couldn't figure it out. And that kind of launched me down this path of personal development, which kind of brings me to where I am now. I, over the last 5 years, have done a significant amount of work on myself, going from being disconnected physically, disconnected spiritually, disconnected inside of my family, and ultimately showing up to work a worse version of myself than I could have been. Showing up and really recognizing that I, as an engineer, needed to show up better. I needed to show up better. And so I put an intense amount of work and got connected with myself physically. You just saw the picture. I've done things like an ultra marathon and a marathon. I competed in a men's physique competition, right? Put myself way out of comfort. I connected deeply to spirituality and God the way that I see it. I've working on and continually working on connecting with my wife and my family, no matter what's going on, always putting in work to do the work there. And then really working to step into a business that I feel called to do, which brings us here. So that's a little bit about me. 15 years working on robots, and now I want to help work on the humans that work on robots and other engineering things, because that's how I know that I can impact the planet. So Pavel, a little bit introduction about you.
Sure. Once again, welcome everyone. Let me give you a bit of a background about myself. So I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I started in 2011. Similar like Brandon, I work mainly in the robotics field, industrial robotics. I do also a bit of controls. However, throughout all of those years, I worked, some of you probably might know me from my YouTube channel called Future Robotics, where I teach industrial robotics. But along this path, when I started, I worked as a contractor. I was as a direct hire. I work with many companies, a lot of contractor companies. I work as a contractor for many big OEMs like Volkswagen, Ford, GM, Tesla, and other companies where I executed a lot of projects. So I worked starting from, let's say, the low level of the corporate all the way up to owning my own business, working as a salary employee. And all of that was okay until I realized that there is always something missing in the way how I execute my work. And there is always something that's bothering me. And later on, I start noticing not only me, but also others. Therefore, similar like Brandon, I went through the path of the personal development and management, trying to understand the issues that come with the work. And I'm actually very surprised. And that's why me and Brandon come up with the initiative of sharing issues in the engineering world with everyone. And we're here trying to help you and put some light on those. So basically what happened over the years, I was working, but similar like Brandon, I was very focused on work, wasn't focused too much on my personal development. And what happened is like, because of that, I was losing a little bit of what I do in my life. But what was more important is I've seen it wasn't only me. I saw that there was also a lot of people around me. So that happened, and I realized this mainly when I was managing some of the projects for OEMs, and we're doing installations, and when I get chance to manage other people, work with them and coach them. That's when I realized how important the life-work balance, or even just life-work balance and what you do after work, how important that is. So like similar like Brandon, let me tell you a story when that really hit me. So we were on one of the projects in one of the bigger OEMs, and one of my friends had some issues, family issues. So we were at the project working high hours, very stressful job. Everything has to be done on time. We had just 2 days to implement. Then we were running during the weekend and so on and so on. So basically what happened is during that rush, he kind of ignored the connection within himself and what happened with the family. And we were making some changes, and basically what happened is he was jogging the robot, moving the industrial robot arm, and he crashed his own leg with the robot that he was moving because he was not paying attention. That's because his mind was disconnected from where he was at this point, because he was somewhere with the family instead of being right there focused on work. And now probably a lot of you might ask the question, okay, why that happened? Like, is it because he was not aware of what is going to happen with him when he comes to work in that state? Or is it the issue that the manager didn't see that, hey, the guy is here today, but he doesn't look like he should be at work? And that's something that nobody talks about in our industry. Engineering is being seen as basically very task-focused people. So we are given a task and we take from solving that task. That's how we get our feedback. That's how we know, okay, we've done a good job. Okay, it's great. Like that's how we feel fulfilled most of the cases. No, of course, not everyone. Everybody is different. But this is something I've been noticing more often and often. And I've noticed a very big disconnection between the engineers and the managers. Therefore, I decided to go a little bit deeper into that topic and understand where those differences are coming from, and why sometimes we as engineers cannot speak with the managers and the other way around. And that's why I started focusing on like team building, how to improve overall work in the industry, and shine a bit of light on personal development and why that is so important when we talk about engineering. So throughout my work, I've gathered a lot of experience regarding that. Similar like Brandon, we've been through many different cases. We've learned a lot of stuff, and now we're trying to share that with you guys. So I think this is something, like I mentioned, that we're not talking about, and we should be talking about to make the life of every engineer even better than it is right now. And like we've seen that we're coming up with better ideas, and now if we work on those engineers, we'll be able to come with better ideas even faster than we are coming at right now.
Right.
So if we talk about also team building and personal development, there's one more thing I would like to mention. So I've seen that disconnect I mentioned. So where does it come from? At least from most of the contractors I work with, the managers are either A, very skill focused, or B, more of a people focused. And now you gotta choose. Okay, my manager is being seen as, we can call it even a father, like, okay, I can go with him with every technical issue and he will help me solve it. Or B, the manager is like a people person. So you can go to him and tell him, okay, I don't feel good about this project. I'd like to accomplish this and that. Now it will be the manager's responsibility to understand, like, okay, I need this, or how do I approach the engineer, and how the engineer approach to the manager. So what happens, like if there is lack of personal development and skills in just like how to present information to the other person, that's where the disconnect happens. So like engineer cannot communicate with the manager, manager cannot communicate with the engineer, and the whole idea might get lost. And especially if you're disconnected with yourself, when your personal development is not there, you're not aware of what's happening, then definitely you're going to miss some of important points that you wanted to share with your manager. And then you don't feel fulfilled, then you feel bad, then you come back home, you don't feel fulfilled at work. You're taking some of that home, and again, if you're not aware, you're going to be again feeling a little bit sad, feeling not happy that, okay, I came from work, haven't done what I wanted to do, I wanted to do more. And that will go back to the topic of personal development. And that's why we're here. That's why we want to spread the knowledge. And that's why we would like to tell a little bit more about this in the engineering world.
Absolutely. Pavel, do you have an example? I know this is kind of sprung on you. Do you have an example of a time where like you were able to communicate something effectively to your manager, or a time when you weren't?
Sure, definitely. So that is exactly what happened when the manager was a skilled person. So what happens is sometimes the manager will oversee their own, or actually overestimate their own knowledge, and they will not allow engineers to be themselves and put up new ideas into work.
Okay.
So you can give an idea to a manager and say, hey, I think we can make this, we can try to make this work, and then probably that is going to improve the production, and maybe that's going to improve the downtime. And if the manager is not aware and like not open, and he thinks, okay, no, I know this, like I've been doing this for so many years, you're going to hear back, no, like I want to try that. Like right now, that's not the focus of what we're doing. So what happens is the communication between the engineer and the manager says, the manager is like, hey, I don't want to listen to you. That's what engineers hears. That's not what he meant. What he might mean is like, hey, right now we have different priorities. Like we want to focus on this. I think your idea is great. We should talk about this. Let's discuss. What he's saying, because of upper management, he's saying, no, I want to talk about this right now. And that's what engineer hears, instead of hearing the other version, that what he really means. And that's why it's so important to communicate. So what happened to me is like we're having a discussion regarding cycle time, and the manager said the same thing. No, that's not how you measure the cycle time. That's not how you do it. Like we're focusing now on the quality. And he didn't explicitly said like, okay, let's talk about this later. I think it's a good idea what you're proposing. We should consider that. Or he said, okay, let's talk about this later. Right now, let's focus on something else, as this is a higher priority for us. I understand that you would like to talk about this. So that's like quick kill, let's call it, of somebody trying to approach to the manager, might like turn off the light bubble like above your head. Okay, I have a new idea, I want to share it. Because every time you come to that manager, you will feel like, okay, I want to share something, but I'm not able to share, or maybe I shouldn't share because again, I'm going to hear, okay, that's not a good time, that's not what we're doing now, that's not what I want to focus on, and so on and so on and so on. So this is probably the most common issue I faced when I was trying to communicate something to the managers. And after I understood the other side of the equation, like the manager has his own tasks and his own stress coming from the top, then I started to realize, okay, I understand that he's not communicating this to me, so I'll come again and ask the other day. That's number one. And number two is what I've seen and like what happened to me is like the manager will say, hey, I'm not angry at you. So what happens, like the line stops. The like everybody is there, like directors, managers, and so on and so on. And you see the manager like hitting his fist to the table. He said, no, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. And that's again a disconnection between like his mental state and physical state. He's not aware of what he's doing. And he's telling to you, I'm not angry at you because you made a mistake. But at the same time, he's hitting with his fist into the table or with his hand onto the table. So that's another disconnection that if they are not aware of, like he might not really be angry at you. He does not be angry at the decision that he made, but how it sounds or how it looks is that actually he's angry at you, or actually that's what you might think.
Right.
So again, this is something that's missing in our industry, like just this awareness of ourselves and the awareness of what we're doing every day.
Absolutely. 100%. Like if the manager to communication to employee and employee to communication, if it's not a good two-way street, there's going to be breakdown, and breakdowns communication leads to misunderstandings and almost invariably hurt feelings, right?
That's correct.
I have a story one time where I had a manager who was very much matter of fact, did not have emotional, and did not, they told me, they said, I am not someone who gives positive feedback to individuals. And that for me, my self-awareness, and this was more recently after some of the work I've done, my self-awareness brought me to the point where I was confident enough to be able to say, hey, well, here's the deal. I am someone who prefers positive verbal feedback. Like it's something that actually lifts me up. My words of affection is actually one of my love languages, right? And so if you could, recognize that positive affirmation and positive feedback to someone actually might lift them up. Like we were in a situation where I feel like I did a really, really good fucking job. Like I really did. And if you could just acknowledge that fact and let me know, not only me, but my team would appreciate it, because that lets them know that they're seen and heard and felt. And so I had an opportunity to where I managed up, right? I communicated that this is what was there. And later on, that manager actually made visible steps to share more appreciation and more positive feedback with myself, with other peers, and with the team, right? It's so important to be able to communicate and be in touch with who you are and have that self-awareness.
Exactly. And to your point, again, that self-awareness, that's something that is so much, like extremely missing from our environment. Like you see, or like I see the engineers I work with every day or on the projects, there's like, most of them are very close people. Like there is not a lot of communication. Again, very task focused. Like you will give a task to the engineer and he just focus on this. But that social interaction is so important. And I can again share one story. That happened actually at the very beginning when I was working still as a contractor. So that was a hourly job. So therefore, every hour that you work, you get paid. And what happened, like one of the managers, what he sees, like we were coming to work every morning and like we spent 15 to 20 minutes drinking coffee and talking. And he said, well, we're not going to pay you for that 20 minutes of talking in the morning because you're not doing any work. And where from his perspective, yeah, sure, that's true. Like we're not doing any work because we're there socializing with others. But without the socializing, like what happens to you, you're becoming a machine, and then you lose basically the need for coming to work. Because if you're just coming to work as a machine, there's nothing to do. Like you can do it for some time, sure, you can do it for a week or two, but after, like there's no socialization, there is no communication with others, there's like no point of coming to work. You will just burn out after the time.
Yep.
So he realized that like after some time, so yeah, we stopped doing the coffee break in the morning, but then the efficiency of the entire team went down. Exactly, because there was nothing that would motivate us in the morning. Like even if somebody had some stress from the days before, or like bad day at home, or like bad weekend, whatever, there was nobody to share with, even at work. Like, okay, maybe he doesn't have anybody at home, so he comes to work to share with his colleagues or his friends some of the things that he went through during the weekend. And now you're taking this away because you think that the 20 minutes will change. We don't know what. Yeah, it changed. Taking away the 20 minutes made everything worse because we had less willingness to work. We were like a little bit dismotivated. And after some time, like he realized, okay, that was a bad decision. Like we're bringing back the coffee breaks. And that was something that allowed us to kind of look back into our positive emotions and positive workflow.
Nice. I have a saying that I'm going to put here in the comments. Engineering is a team sport, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
A
100%.
lot of the culture I came up in, and you did, I'm assuming as well, it was this idea that it's only me and it's me against you and it's a competition and I work by myself and
Yeah.
maybe I'll talk to you if I have to because we have to communicate on this one project. But other than that, blinders on forward. And
Yes.
it's just not true, right?
Yeah. And then some people will think, okay, let's forget about sharing any knowledge to the other person, because especially if you live like in a corporate ladder, they would think, okay, I share some knowledge to you, then that means you might get better than I am, and then what's going to happen? But again, that will come from my perspective to the team building and to understanding what is your job or what is your task in the place that you work. Yeah, what did the manager especially said, like, okay, in order for you to get better, in order for you to be recognized, we're focusing now on this, and this. What do you think you can bring into the team to like fulfill the goals that we have for this quarter, or what yourself can bring to the team to help us grow as a team? And unfortunately, again, that will come again to like how well are you able to speak and how well are you able to communicate this both ways, engineer to a manager, manager to the engineer. Because if there is no communication, then yeah, everybody will close up just even more, and everybody will try to get something for themselves. Another, I think, interesting fact is like when I ask the managers, or actually not the managers, the directors I work with at the different companies, they mentioned that usually the utilization of engineer is around 70 to 60%. So you can think of like you're using only 60 or 70% of the time that the engineer is actually at work. Whereas it's very easy to measure if you're like hourly. So if you provide some services, you know, okay, how long that person sits at home or sits at desk and how often that is at the customer side. It becomes a little bit harder to determine when you work like at the facility and you're like support, maintenance, because then it's a little bit harder to quantify. However, it's still possible to do. So what do we do with this 40% that the engineer is, let's say, sitting? What do we put into that 40%? What can we do during that time to make it better?
Right.
And now, from my perspective, that will be training.
Right.
But from some companies' perspective, that will be like training, but a forced training. So like not something that engineer would like to do, or not actually what engineer would need in his work to be better, but something that company requires him to complete every year, every half a year, quarter, or so on, so on, so on.
Sure.
So how about
wastewater management training for the fifth year in a row?
Exactly. So how about we put into that a little bit of that social development to help become better versions of ourselves, and therefore give more to the company that we work with.
Yep.
That's my perspective.
Awesome. So then how does that tie into, we've got about 6 minutes left. How's that tie into what do you envision with this idea of engineering evolved? Like right now it's two engineers on the internet talking about this idea, but as this blossoms and grows, like what do you see? What do you foresee this idea of engineering evolved? What is the overall message you want to give from where your seat, coming from like the team building seat?
Yeah. So I would like
and
to
the technical training. Sorry, you also really have that tie-in with the deep technical training.
Yes, of course. So what I would like to do is to connect with the managers and the engineers and help them understand their team better so they can actually get more out of the team. Out of that 60%, how do we squeeze 70? How do we squeeze 80%? How do we improve the communication within the team? How do we define the skill set of the team to be as efficient as possible? What are the key items that are missing in that team that we can find and we can change onto something positive that will improve the efficiency of that team? That will come through training, taking a look at the hard skills that each person has. And of course, we cannot forget about the soft skills. So again, maybe advise a little bit about the soft skill and like what they should consult on and see help in terms of developing themselves to communicate better within the team. So my message, I would say, would be if you're an engineering manager or an engineer and you see some of the issues that we mentioned or like some others that you would like to share, I'll be happy to assist you with guiding you through what steps, like what tools to use in order to determine what can you do to improve the efficiency of your team. Or even if you say, okay, we work great, like our efficiency is great, what else can we do to become better engineers and what else we can do to improve ourselves?
Awesome.
What about you, Brandon? What are you thinking?
And so, you had mentioned something like being able to increase efficiency. I have a firm, not even belief, a firm knowledge, like a deep knowing that when an engineer takes care of themselves fully as a whole human being, so the framework that I use is body, right? Your physicality, your being, who you're being here on earth. A lot of times that ties in your spirituality, but it's just, who it is that you're being as a human being, right? A human being. Your balance, which is your family and your close family network, and then your business. When you do activities that take care of the whole you, when you show up as a whole version of you, a better version of yourself, you show up as a better and more efficient, more effective engineer, right? So sure. My personal morning routine is I get up and I have currently, it's about 3 hours worth of work where I go and I do an exercise and I drink some greens and I take care of my kids and I bring them to school and I do a process called the stack where it's just a journal meditation, journaling exercise. Like I have all these things that I do every morning that really put myself in a place of power, repeatedly, reliably proven. The company and the certification that I have as a trainer, it's proven. It is a proven personal operating system that puts you in power every single day, repeatedly, reliably. If you do it, it works. There's no question. I believe that when you show up and you're on power, you're on fire as an engineer, and you show up to work, instead of coming in and yes, you can do the 20 minutes of coffee time, which is valuable for there. But then when you get in, you go from this and instead of coffee and then you got to wind up into your day. And then 35 or 40 minutes later, you're actually doing work. And then you take a break and go lunch, and then maybe nap. Then you scroll through Facebook. And when you can have the power to maintain focus at work, you can actually be more effective at work as a team. You can be closer as a community. You can be more emotionally available. You show up, you're a better engineer. And the more people in an engineering team that you have doing that, the better your communication gets. It becomes a snowball, right? Yep. The more you work on the human, the better you get as a company. The more you are, the better you get as a human and working on the soft skills, the easier it is to help you pick up and learn and translate the hard skills into effective results.
Yes, correct. I know we're running almost out of time, but we have an interesting question. What is the future of engineering? I would assume in AI.
What is the future of engineering with AI? So here's the fun part. AI is going to change everything. Tell you what we're going to do is, I can't see who left that comment, but what we're going to do is we're going to start taking topics lists. We got to do a couple things to share. One, that is a fantastic topic for Pavel and I to kind of look at in the future. How does this human element work with this AI element? We're going to have a website up. I don't know if it's up yet, but as you watch this, it's engineeringevolved.com. And I don't know if we have it now. Maybe I'm making one of those moments, but I think we'd like, hi, Bryce. Yeah, absolutely. We'll totally have that topic of conversation. We want to have a place for people to put in topics for us to talk about. So, Bryce, I would love to talk about that one. Pavel and I put it on this topics list that we're starting to build. Very quickly, AI is just going to help with problem solvings. It's going to make that more effective, which is just going to be more important for the engineer to work on themselves so that they can better use the tool to be more effective. It's just a tool. Engineers are brilliant at using tools. Like, that's kind of our superpower. Give us a tool, let us run. I think AI is just going to help us better and more. ChatGPT helped us build the description. As AI steps in more and more, I think it's just going to help the engineers. It's until you have a general AI that is far superior to our intelligence, I think it's a tool that engineers can use to help be more effective.
Yes, definitely. What I would like to add from myself is, like, does this question comes from a manager or engineer perspective? Because what engineers might fear is like, okay, AI is going to take over my job. Well, hence, if you have a good software skills, the soft skills, and you know how to communicate to others your ideas and perhaps implement AI in your company, then the AI won't replace you, because the soft skills are not something that AI is capable of, probably, maybe not yet. We don't know about the future. But again, it will help more than, let's say, bring harm to the engineering world. So definitely that is something that we'll be exploring with Brant. But for sure, great topic, and we should consider making podcasts about this.
Yep, I'm going to write it down and we'll put it on the spreadsheet. So last little bit, if you are following this, hopefully you found value. I know Pavel and I poured a lot of value into here. This is episode 1. This is the first step into what does it look like as engineering evolves through bringing in the human element and disconnecting from the idea that your brain is all that matters. Whether you're watching us on, I think we're live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn right now, we're live on YouTube, a couple different places. Wherever you're watching us, please go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know you're here. That'll help with engagement and get the message out. If you're on a channel that has subscribes and follows, please do all that. The biggest thing for me is just to have engagement and conversation and topics. What do you want to hear us talk about?
Exactly.
Pavel and I have already set the groundwork of there are going to be things that we might disagree on or push back and forth on. This is an open conversation because that's what, again, engineering should be.
Exactly.
So I very much appreciate everyone who is watching this live. Again, if you're watching live, leave a hashtag live comment. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave a hashtag replay comment here in the comments. That really helps us out and lets us know. And Pavel, is there anything else that you want to say to our faithful followers on episode 1?
Thank you so much for watching. There is much more content to come. Leave your comments, guys. Give us ideas of what would like to hear and what do you think is troubling you right now. And we'll try to talk about this live and be with us during the lives. Write your questions. We'll try to answer them as we can.
Yeah. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to Pavel or I individually, send us a message, send us a DM, check out the website. I think I just did 8 call to actions, which is a no-no, and we'll figure it out the next time. Thank you, everyone. Pavel, thanks for being here today. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, appreciate. Again, guys, let's spread the knowledge of engineering and soft skills, and let's make it a better and more friendly world.
Yep, engineering evolved. And here's where our fancy outro goes in the future. Have a great day, all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.